Hi, I'm Amy, a 28-year-old third-grade teacher at Lincoln Elementary. My days are filled with chalk dust and eager young minds. Amy, the kids really respond to your teaching style, Principal Howard said as I finished another day at school. Thanks, I replied with a smile. It's not always easy on a teacher's salary, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Teaching is my passion, though I'll admit the monthly allowance for my dad makes life in my cozy apartment near school more manageable. Dad and I have been close since Mom passed when I was 15. He's always supported my dreams, even when they didn't align with the corporate ambitions he once had for me. Amy, honey, I want you to meet someone special, Dad said one evening. Come over for dinner this Saturday. That's how I met Melissa. She entered Dad's house like she owned the place, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood floor. Richard has told me so much about you. I just know we're going to be great friends, she gushed, her smile a little too perfect. She's a successful real estate agent, Dad said, beaming at her like a smitten teenager. We met at the country club. Over the next 3 months, things got complicated. My friend Sarah, who works at the courthouse, dropped a cryptic comment during one of our weekly coffee meetups. Melissa Roberts, huh? That name rings a bell, and not in a good way. I kept quiet, observing as Melissa expertly wrapped Dad around her finger. Then came the text that changed everything. Big news, princess. I'm having an engagement dinner next weekend. I've asked Melissa to marry me. Already? After only 3 months? Dad, don't you think this is a bit fast? I asked when I called him back. When you know, he said with an unshakable cheer. Don't you want your old man to be happy? Of course I do, but... Great, then you'll be there Saturday at 7. We're meeting at Le Blanc restaurant. Melissa's whole family will be there. It's important to me, Amy. I hung up, my stomach in knots. The Melissa I'd been watching didn't match the version Dad believed in. She avoided any talk of her past and always changed the subject when her family came up. Sarah's warning echoed in my mind. Be careful, Amy. Some people aren't who they pretend to be. I didn't know it then, but that engagement dinner would force me to choose between my father's happiness and my own integrity. The night before the dinner, Dad called me. His tone was unusually stern. We need to talk, he said. Sure, I replied cautiously. I'll come over now. When I walked into his study, Melissa was there, her usual practiced smile replaced by something colder. Amy, honey, we need a favor, Dad began, fidgeting with a pen. Melissa cut in smoothly. My family is very traditional, and they need to believe this is my first marriage. What are you saying? I asked, my voice sharp. It means, Melissa continued, you need to back us up. Tell them you've known me for a year and that I've never been married. But that's not true. Dad leaned forward, his face hard. Melissa was married before. She has 2 kids and declared bankruptcy 3 years ago. Her family can't know. You want me to lie? I'm not asking, Dad said, his tone turning icy. I'm telling you, this is happening. No, I won't do it. Dad's expression darkened. Then I'll cut off your allowance, every penny. I stared at him stunned. You're blackmailing me. Don't be so dramatic, he snapped. I'm asking you to help your father be happy. Dad, this isn't like you. Can't you see what's happening here? What I see, he growled, slamming his hand on the desk, is my daughter being selfish. After everything I've done for you, you can't do this one thing. Melissa touched his arm. Richard, I told you she wouldn't understand. She's always been jealous of our relationship. Jealous? I barely know you. See? Melissa said, her eyes welling with tears. She's attacking me after I've tried so hard. That's enough, Dad roared, standing up. Amy, either you help us tomorrow or you can forget about any financial support. And don't bother coming around here anymore. Dad, please, I begged. Listen to yourself. This isn't. Get out. The words hit me like a slap. My father, the man who had always been my rock, was now a stranger. I backed away, my heart breaking as I left. Watching my father's face contort with anger as I reached the door, I froze for a moment, unsure if I was leaving for good. When I glanced back, Melissa smirked, a look of triumph glinting in her eyes the moment Dad wasn't watching. You're making a mistake, she called after me, her voice laced with venom. Both financially and, well, let's just say you'd better hope your teaching position is secure. I have friends on the school board. Standing in the driveway, shaking with a mix of anger and grief, I pulled out my phone and called Sarah. "You were right about her," I said, my voice trembling. "And now I've lost my dad." "No, Amy," Sarah said firmly. "He lost you. And trust me, this is just the beginning of what we're going to uncover about your almost stepmother." As I walked to my car, a painful realization struck me. The father I knew, the one who had always been my rock, died with that ultimatum. The man back there, threatening his daughter over a web of lies, wasn't him. He was Melissa's puppet, and somehow I was going to prove it. Unveiling the truth, moving into a smaller apartment was tough, but it was nothing compared to what Sarah showed me during lunch at the courthouse a few weeks later. "Amy, look at this," Sarah said, spinning her laptop toward me. "Melissa Roberts, or should I say Melissa Thompson, Williams, or Baker. She's got more names than a phone book." Leaning over, I scanned the documents. "These are fraud cases. 6 cases across 3 states. She's careful," Sarah said. "Always manages to settle out of court. But wait until you see who I found." That's how I ended up in a coffee shop across from Jack Thompson, Melissa's ex-husband. "She just left," Jack said bitterly. No warning. The kids woke up one morning and their mother was gone. Later, I found out she emptied our accounts. His hands tightened around his coffee cup. "How old were they?" I asked softly. 7 and 9, he replied, his voice breaking. "They still ask about her sometimes. Last month, my daughter saw her picture in some society magazine, smiling at some charity gala, while I'm working 2 jobs to give them a decent life." As I listened to Jack's story, my phone buzzed with a text from Carol, Melissa's former business partner. A trail of deception. Meeting Carol in her tiny apartment was eye-opening. She used to own a successful real estate firm, Sarah explained as we sat down. "Until Melissa came along," Carol added, her tone bitter. "I lost everything. She forged my signature on loans, transferred client funds. By the time I figured it out, she'd vanished with millions." "How many others were there?" I asked, taking notes. "That I know of. 3 wealthy men before your father. She has a pattern. Find a successful older man, isolate him from his family, then take everything." Sarah and I compiled court records, victim statements, and financial documents. It was damning evidence, but we needed something bigger. "Amy, what about her family?" Sarah asked. "The ones she's so desperate to fool?" "Found them," Sarah said, her eyes lighting up. "Her brother's a partner at Matthews and Sons law firm. Very old money." "Perfect," I said. "Time for an anonymous package." We carefully assembled the evidence, adding Jack's contact information and Carol's statement. Sarah enlisted a private investigator to verify our findings. If Melissa's family hired someone, they'd uncover even more. A week later, my phone rang. "Is this Amy?" a deep voice asked. "This is James Matthews, Melissa's brother. We need to talk." Looking at the envelope on my desk, ready to send to Melissa's family, I realized there was no turning back. "Yes, Mr. Matthews," I said. "I think we do need to talk." The engagement party at Leblink was in full swing when Jack walked in, holding the hands of 2 children. The chatter of champagne glasses and classical music froze as a little girl's voice cut through the air. "Mommy," she called out. Melissa's face went ghost white. What are they doing here?" she stammered. "Miss Roberts," James Matthews said, stepping forward, his private investigator by his side. "Or should we call you Mrs. Thompson? Perhaps Mrs. Williams?" Dad turned to Melissa, confusion and horror dawning on his face. "Amy tried to warn me," he muttered. "I didn't listen." "Richard, they're lying." Melissa's voice cracked, her perfectly manicured hands trembling. "I can explain everything. Like you explained the millions you stole from me." Carol stepped out of the crowd, her voice sharp and unwavering. "Or why you abandoned your children," Jack added, his son clinging to his side. Chaos erupted. Melissa's family huddled together, whispering furiously, while Dad's business associates discreetly slipped away, phones buzzing with the scandal. "You're all jealous of what Richard and I have," Melissa screamed, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "What we had," Dad said quietly, his voice laced with finality. "It's over." Security escorted Melissa out as she hurled threats and accusations. Her son buried his face in Jack's jacket while her daughter silently watched, tears streaming down her face. Moving forward, 6 months later, I was grading papers in my classroom when Principal Howard knocked on the door. "Amy, got a minute?" he asked, smiling. "The board was impressed with how you handled everything while maintaining your professional integrity. We'd like to offer you the lead teacher position." That same day, Dad showed up at my new apartment. His face was weary, his eyes filled with regret. "Princess," he said softly. "Amy, I'm so sorry. I was a fool." Dad's voice cracked with regret as he stood in my doorway. "Yes, you were," I replied softly, my emotions a mix of sadness and exhaustion. "I miss you," he continued. "Can we try to—" "Dad, stop," I interrupted, meeting his gaze. "Melissa is facing fraud charges in 3 states. Her previous victims have come forward, and she's looking at serious jail time. You enabled her to almost destroy our relationship." "I know," he said, his shoulders slumping. "I'll do anything to make it right." "Then respect my boundaries," I replied firmly. "I need time." He nodded, leaving a small package on the table before he walked away. Inside was a newspaper clipping about my promotion and a note in his handwriting. "You were stronger than I ever was." Moving forward, a year later, I heard Melissa had taken a plea deal minus 15 years. Dad still sends monthly messages, but I respond only when I feel ready. My new position at school keeps me busy, and the respect I've earned feels better than any allowance ever could. Sarah visited my classroom last week, leaning against the doorframe with a smile. "Remember when this all started? Look at you now." I smiled back, watching my students file in. "Yeah, sometimes standing your ground costs you everything, but integrity pays better in the long run." The Matthews family even reached out, impressed by how I handled the situation, and offered me a tutoring position for their children. Life has a way of rewarding honesty, even when it feels like you're losing everything. My mother used to say, "Character is what you do when no one's watching." But I've learned it's also about what you refuse to do, even when everyone is pushing you to compromise. Reflection. Amy Adams might have lost her allowance, her comfortable lifestyle, and temporarily her relationship with her father. But she never lost herself. That's worth more than all the allowances in the world. The kids who now look up to me, the parents who trust me, and the colleagues who respect me remind me every day that choosing integrity over comfort was the right call. As for Dad, he's learning. Maybe someday we'll build something new, something based on truth this time. But for now, I'm exactly where I need to be. What about you? What would you do if your parent tried to blackmail you into lying? Would you choose financial security or your integrity? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Amy's story is a reminder that standing firm can come with great cost, but also great rewards. Was she right to stand her ground, or should she have played along to keep the peace and her financial security? The choice isn't always as clear as it seems when it's your own family asking you to compromise your values. If you want to hear more stories about standing up to toxic family members and coming out stronger, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support helps me share stories like Amy's, which might help others facing similar situations. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what you would do in this situation.